Alright, these are your notes for section 1.3 on the midpoint. Okay, we've already done notes for distance, now we're going to talk about midpoint. And just like distance, we can talk about midpoint in two different ways. We can talk about it on a number line and on a coordinate plane, so we're going to do both in this video. First thing though, we're going to talk about what a midpoint is. Okay, the midpoint is the exact middle, or sometimes you might see the word center, of a line segment. So distance, remember, is how long the line segment is. Midpoint is the exact center, the exact middle of that line segment. Now I've got a vocabulary word here that goes along with midpoint, a very important vocabulary word. It's the word bisect. What bisect means is that it cuts in half, or two equal pieces. Okay, and that's what a midpoint does. A midpoint bisects a line segment. It's also called a segment bisector. You might see that. It's not the only thing that could be a segment bisector. A segment bisector could be a line or another line segment that cuts a line segment in half, but it will always go through the midpoint. So the midpoint is where it bisects, where it cuts it in half. That's important to know. Okay? Keep that in the back of your brain. We're not going to talk about that so much in this video, but you need to know what that means, what bisect and bisector are. Alright, first thing we're going to talk about. Midpoint on a number line. So what we're looking for here on a number line, remember it's one dimensions going left and right, we are looking for the exact center between two numbers, the exact middle. So our question is, what's the midpoint between -2 and 3? And we've got that marked in our picture over here. We have -2 and we have 3. So somehow we want to find the middle between those two numbers. And this is how we do it. Very easy. We add the numbers together. Second step, divide by 2. And we have our answer. So we're going to do that. -2 plus 3 divided by 2. -2 plus 3 is 1 divided by 2 gives us an answer of 1/2. So there's where our midpoint is. Our midpoint is at 1/2, which is right here on our number line. And if we look, it is 1, 2.5 away from -2, and it's 1, 2.5 away from +3. So yeah, we found the midpoint. That's all we have to do. Important to remember those steps, because when we go to a coordinate plane, we're going to use the same idea. Okay, it's a little different, a little more involved, but it is the same basic idea. Okay, so that's finding the midpoint on a number line. Add the two numbers together, and you're going to divide it by 2, and there's where your midpoint would be. Midpoint on a coordinate plane now. We're going to use the same idea, but we're going to do it twice. The reason we do it twice is because we have x's and y's. So we have to use the same idea to find the midpoint for the x, and then we have to find the midpoint for the y, and we put them together in an ordered pair, and then we have our answer. Okay? So make sure that your answer is an ordered pair when you're doing this on a coordinate plane. Alright? It shouldn't just be one number. So here's our formula. Now, really, you could think of it as doing the same thing we did at the top. You would add your x's together, divide by 2, add your y's together, divide by 2. You can think of it that way. I'm going to give you a formula, and your formula is basically that. It's in an ordered pair. We have x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. We've done what we did up here for the midpoint on a number line. We've added our x's together, cut it in half. We're adding our y's together, cutting it in half. The difference is our answer is an ordered pair. Since we did it twice, we put them together in an ordered pair. Okay? I've got an example here for you. And we're using the same points we did for our distance problem. So we're going to find the midpoint between -1, -3, and 5, -7. First thing I'm going to do is write down my formula. Alright, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2, in parentheses as an ordered pair. Let's fill in our numbers. Let's label them again. x1, y1, x2, y2. Now I'll warn you, a common mistake I see a lot is that people take x1 and x2 as the first point. You can't do that. You take x from one and x from another. So make sure you're pulling numbers from each point when you're plugging them into your formula. So we have negative 1 plus 5 divided by 2. Negative 3 plus the negative 7 divided by 2. Negative 1 plus 5, well that's really 4 divided by 2. And negative 3 plus the negative 7, that's really minus 10 divided by 2. We got one more step to simplify. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So there's our midpoint. Again, all we did was we did the same thing we did for the midpoint there. Added our x's together, cut it in half. Added our y's together, cut it in half. And we put them together in an ordered pair. We used a formula for it, though, which does the same thing. Alright, now I've got a practice problem for you. Same practice problem from before, using the same points, but this time I want you to find the midpoint between 6, negative 2, and 0, negative 8. So if you go ahead and pause the video, work it out, and come back and check your answer. Alright, now that you've worked your problem out, let's go ahead and work it out together. Make sure you got the right answer. I'm going to write down my formula first. y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Then I'm going to label my points. x1, y1, x2, y2. Again, make sure that you get x and y from each point. Don't point x1, x2. That's not right. Common mistake, though, so watch out for it. Alright, let's fill in our values. x1 is 6, and x2 is 0, so 6 plus 0 divided by 2. y1 is negative 2 plus y2 is negative 8 divided by 2. 6 plus 0 is 6 divided by 2. Negative 2 plus negative 8 is negative 10 divided by 2. One more step, we're going to simplify. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So there's our answer. There's our midpoint. If you didn't get that, I'd go back through and make sure you watched your signs and you got your right numbers in the values or for your variables. If you have any questions, please bring them to class next time. Otherwise, those are your notes for section 1.3 on finding the midpoint.